We often conduct experiments with other animals before we conduct experiments with humans or to kind of see how something might affect human beings. And one thing that we have done in the past, like I think one of the most famous examples of this is you've probably seen a picture of a mouse with like a human's ear growing on its back. And so we've been doing this kind of stuff for a long time. And a new thing that we have done recently is made a mouse brain that's part human. So basically, we didn't change any of the neurons of these mice, but what we did is we caused their brain to have human glial cells around those neurons. And so we actually made a brain inside of a mouse that's basically part or half human. And the reason we're doing that is not to make like super smart mice or something like that. It's so that their brains more closely mimic human brains when we're doing experiments. And I think that's the reason why this is being done. But the findings are actually pretty interesting. Even though we didn't change the neurons and these mice were still mice with these human brain cells, and we only changed the glial cells, these mice were actually smarter and able to do mice things better than their mice peers. So that's very interesting. And also, the brains grew a lot bigger than a typical mouse brain. So let's take a look at this from newscientist.com. They say mice have been created whose brains are half human. As a result, the animals are smarter than their siblings. The idea is not to mimic fiction, but to advance our understanding of human brain diseases by studying them in whole mouse brains rather than just in dishes. The altered mice still have mouse neurons, the thinking cells that make up around half of all their brain cells, but practically all the glial cells in their brains, the ones that support the neurons, are human. It's still a mouse brain, not a human brain, says Steve Goldman of the University of Rochester Medical Center in New York, but all the non-neuronal cells are human. Goldman's team injected human glial cells into mouse pups where they developed into astrocytes, a star-shaped type of glial cell. Within a year, the mouse glial cells had been completely usurped by the human interlopers. The 300,000 human cells each mouse received multiplied until they numbered 12 million, displacing the native cells. We could see the human cells taking over the whole space, says Goldman. It seemed like the mouse counterparts were fleeing to the margins. Astrocytes are vital for conscious thought because they help strengthen the connections between neurons, called synapses. Their tendrils are involved in coordinating the transmission of electrical signals across synapses. Human astrocytes are 10 to 20 times the size of mouse astrocytes and carry 100 times as many tendrils. This means they can coordinate all the neural signals in an area far more adeptly than mouse astrocytes can. It's like ramping up the power on your computer, says Goldman. And I mentioned it in another video this week, but basically they found that the brains of macaques and chimpanzees basically mature and grow in a similar way to humans, and that our neocortex is not that different from each other. However, the connections in between the different areas of the brain are very different in humans and macaques, etc. So maybe this is part of that as well. So it goes on to say, a battery of standard tests for mouse memory and cognition showed that the mice with human astrocytes are much smarter than their mousy peers. In one test that measures the ability to remember a sound associated with a mild electric shock, for example, the humanized mice froze 4 times as long as other mice when they heard the sound, suggesting their memory was about 4 times better. These were whopping effects, says Goldman. We can say they were statistically and significantly smarter than the control mice, for sure. And then it goes on to say that although this may sound like the work of science fiction, think Deep Blue Sea, where researchers searching for Alzheimer's cure accidentally create super smart sharks, or Algernon, the lab mouse who has surgery to enhance his intelligence, or even the Pigoons, Margaret Atwood's pigs with human stem cells and human thoughts, Goldman is quick to dismiss any idea that the added cells somehow made the mice more human. This does not provide the animals with additional capabilities that could in any way be ascribed or perceived as specifically human, he says. Rather, the human cells are simply improving the efficiency of the mouse's own neural networks. It is still a mouse. So it didn't necessarily change mice into something more human-like. It just made them better mice, which is pretty cool, I guess. I'm not sure how ethics plays into this kind of research in general and this study specifically, but it is at a broader kind of big picture level kind of interesting, at least, that these mice are better at being mice with some human glial cells. Maybe we can find a more intelligent species out there and put some of their glial cells into our brains and we'll become better humans as well. Not sure if that's possible, but that's another thing to think about. However, the team decided not to try putting human cells into monkeys. So monkeys are a lot closer to us, obviously, and that's kind of the ethical line for these researchers, at least. We briefly considered that, but decided not to because of all the potential ethical issues, Goldman said. And another researcher agreed that it could be difficult to decide which animals to put human brain cells into. If you make animals more human-like, where do you stop? He says. Yeah, so that's kind of the interesting thing. Is it even okay that we did this to mice? Kind of made them super mice with human glial cells? Is it okay? I honestly am not sure. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and subscribe right now because I post a video about some kind of random topic that I find interesting every single day at 7 a.m. Eastern Time just for you. And I want to see you in the next one as well. And no matter what, even if you don't join us in the video tomorrow morning, I hope you have an excellent day.